my channel. My name's SKYMAN Universe, and your Star Wars quote for today. This part is over. That was most definitely appropriate. Today, instead of doing reactions or anything like that, I'm going to talk to you about my whole Star Wars celebration experience. The good, the not so good, truthful parts. Would I do it again? It's kind of tricky to know where to begin with this one, but it's kind of just going to be a talk. I'm going to add footage which I took, photos of which I took throughout this video, so if you spot yourself, if you're cosplaying or anything like that, then yeah, hopefully you're in it as well. But I think to begin with, before we really get into anything, the main thing with Celebration was I had an absolutely amazing time meeting people. That was the one big thing which I got from it. And I've never ever had anything like that before. I've gone out so many other places. Obviously this isn't my main channel, this is my nerd outlet channel. And usually I always meet people from my other channel and about 2% SKYMAN Universe. And the ratio this time, it was about 50-50. And it was just crazy. Absolutely crazy. I'd like literally walk down a spot and then I'd have, 6 people come up wanting pictures to say hello. And those were always the moments which were the high bits of Celebration, was actually meeting you and like speaking to you and talking to you and giving you some swag or something like that. Everything that Celebration had to offer, which sometimes wasn't that great, you know, a few moments later you sort of forget about it because you've met someone else and then you've got to pick me up again. And it sort of kept, I think that was just the thing that kept me going throughout. It was literally all the Star Wars fans there, as opposed to what actually Star Wars did whilst we was there. Some bits, I mean, there were some bits which were amazing. So for some reason, I've never cosplayed as anything before out in public, that's for sure. So I thought, well, I might as well go as Obi-Wan Kenobi from Attack of the Clones. I decided to do that one because, well, Phantom Menace is my favourite. Attack of the Clones is sort of when I start being a teenager, and Obi-Wan with his hair sort of more grown up, and he was someone who sort of aspired to be. So I thought, well, he's a natural choice with a beard as well. Not quite Revenge of the Sith, where it's very serious, but more sort of a fun Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I've been putting that costume together for, I think, over 2 years now. And then it turned into, I don't know how, but it still managed to turn into a last minute rush. And within days, I was still waiting on costume parts. And, you know, there's just so much research to do to get those costumes, trying to get them as movie accurate as possible, and trial and error with various things and creating things. And I got there in the end. However, my lightsaber did not, and I encountered problems, and I got a Corbanth lightsabers. I had KR lightsaber before. I was going NeoPixel. I did have a Golden Harvest V3, and I switched to the Profi board 2.2, I think it is this time. From Corbanth Sabers. Well, they got it over a month in advance and it was like great, but then it wasn't working and there was problems with it, with the chassis. It wouldn't fit in the blade, so I sent it back, 3-day delivery from here to there, and then it never arrived. It never got fixed. And apparently I found out when I got back, day after I came back from Celebration yesterday, today my lightsaber turned up. Of course. And then when I was like, well, you know, at least I got it through, Corbanth Sabers offered a refund. Well, I thought, well, that's fair enough. But then I opened it up and there's no chassis inside or anything like that. So even if that did turn up, it wouldn't have happened. And I researched all the blades, and I remember on the Celebration 2016, there was Darth Vader and he had his lightsaber, and just even looking at it in real life, the rim had inches worth of red glow around it. It looked so realistic. So I opted for a NeoPixel saber, which I think KR Sabers might have made it, but it came from Germany anyway, so I've got that, but obviously I want that to work. And if that was with my cosplay, that would have been so cool. I would literally just take my lightsaber, save myself all the problems of carrying heavy bags, etc., and probably would have been less of an endurance test. But anyway, the costumes that I decided to go for was Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that was 3 layers of stuff, heavy, thick robe, boots which made your feet bleed from day one, and then rest of the days, every single step was excruciating pain. But I did the whole weekend like that, and I just thought, I'm doing it. I'm committed. You know, I just kept putting socks and tissues over the wounds so it wouldn't rub so much. But I had like metal rings digging into my foot the whole time. My feet are pretty much ruined and in recovery repair time at the moment. But taking the bag in, I got a hotel which was literally right next to Excel, and obviously, like so many people, we didn't get a chance to get VIPs. Those tickets went like crazy. And I got the 4-day weekend one. So being so close to the hotel had its advantages. So about halfway through each day, I went back, took all the kits off, washed, had a complete wash down with cold water, and then put it all back on, and it felt a little bit revitalized. But there was always something. Like the fire alarm's going off and couldn't get back in the hotel. So you walk all the way up the stairs and you're broken into a hot sweat again. You know, arrive at celebration, you haven't packed, you know, I bought my heavy camera for some reason and I don't intend to film that day. And any form of exercise with me backfires. It's just, I sweat like crazy. So being in costume and cosplay was a menace. But I was committed to do it. I wanted to do it. I've always wanted to cosplay. So if you saw an Obi-Wan Kenobi, a sweaty one, then yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. My wife, I made a lot of her costume as well, Attack of the Clones, Padme, and literally so many nights at like 3 a.m. in the morning, still gluing, and then something doesn't go right. It was a trial and error for like a month of creating all these boot covers and things, but we got there in the end. I think that was pretty convincing. So that was a kind of a cool trio. A double to go up with. My daughter was meant to come with me as well, and she was going to dress up as an Ewok or Baby Yoda. But after the first day, there was not a chance that I was going to bring her up, because the first day was absolute carnage, and I was, I think, nearly ready to go home when I got back to the hotel and contemplating what the hell I just did. So at 5 o'clock, I think in the morning, that's when my alarm was set, got up, started to get ready, etc, etc, because we knew the queues were going to be pretty early and long. So I think we got there at 6 o'clock in the morning. The queue was still massive, and bear in mind, these are all the people who didn't have tickets to the lottery for the Lucasfilm showcase. So that is something which I 100% don't agree with, the operations of the lottery system. That was just completely bonkers. I know it happens in America, but I'm comparing this to when I went in 2016 in London Excel. When I went to that one, that was completely magical. It was something completely different, an experience which I've talked about so many times every time I've gone to the Excel, or like I think about a celebration, and thinking it was going to have something similar to that, if not better. You know, I've been hyped for celebration, like absolutely crazy. There was just, I can't explain how sort of surreal the whole experience was. I never did anything like that before. So queuing up so early in the morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning, to then have this mad rush to join a queue, to join a queue, to join a queue, to join a queue, and every time in between that, slightly getting ahead, and we was about 60th at the front of the queue at, you know, a celebration with the whole of the other, you know, warehouse filled with the normal queue, and somehow managed to get near the front. That whole experience to get down to the Lucasfilm standby line was just mental, absolutely insane. It was insanity, really. But it was the fans who made it fun. You know, meeting people, talking to people. There was sort of excitement for knowing you might be able to get in there. But it was that sort of camaraderie between all the fans. Everyone's trying to do the same thing, and that's what I loved so much, is sort of being amongst people who had the same sort of passion as well, that really wanted to get in there. But I just don't agree with that lottery system, because I've been part of this Facebook group, and a lot of that, some people get tickets to all of them, whereas some wouldn't. Now, I don't entirely agree with that. If that was going to be the case, then at least everyone should have an opportunity to go to one big panel, what they deem to be one of the big panels, and that's how it should have been. I don't see how this lottery system works anyway. It was absolute carnage. I mean, one of the things it reminded me of, what they had was characters who were meant to parade the sort of the queue going all the way down to the end of XL, and you had security all along the side. So everyone already had their tickets going to the showcase, were already there. But this was a standby line, which inadvertently seemed like it was everyone else queuing up in XL. And it was basically Lucasfilm, I think, were trying to record people coming down, but literally it was a stampede of Star Wars fans. The only thing I thought of, and I said this to my wife, it felt like we was on a Titanic movie filming, and everyone was literally shouting, "Don't run! Don't run!" And you could see the fans sort of just going sort of slowly and then faster and faster until it breaks into a fast walk. So literally near the end, I think everyone knew at that point, you know, if you don't get near the front, you haven't got a chance, basically. After them saying, oh, there's about 10% of this line, this section here that might go in. And then onwards, it's like they've built up the ante even more, the pressure for people to get to the front. And I was thinking, that's just so stupid. They've created this frenzy themselves. I remember sort of going along the side with my robe, and there were sections where it was a queue for one of the side shops, and it had like a fence which no one could see, and then some people will get caught in that fence, and once you're in the fence, you can't go beyond it. You have to sort of go back round and then get back in the queue, and seeing the lost souls as they get caught in the fence and have to sort of make it around. It was mental, and it shouldn't be like that. I've never been in anything like that before in my life. It was crazy. It was funny. It was fun, but it was crazy and odd to be a part of that sort of frenzy there as well. But I mean, it's always the fans which make lightheartedness of the situation, basically. Even though by that point I was sweating buckets in costume, but I was doing that purely for the small chance that there might be George Lucas and John Williams, and that was it. That was literally my reasoning for that run. And I thought, if I knew that they were there and I hadn't tried, that would probably eat me away for the rest of my life. But even as we were sort of making it closer and closer, you know, nobody knew what they was doing. None of security had a clue what was going on. None of the people who worked there had a clue what was going on. Everyone was misinformed. People were running. There was a parade that was meant to go down to lead down to the queue line, which was the other end of XL. It was carnage. Everyone literally rushing around, and me and my wife literally just trying to keep up with this massive robe and costume. And then when we finally got down there, and it was literally within seconds, we had to go left or right and make a decision where to get in whichever lane. You know, that could have cost us. And we got near the front. It was hilarious, you know, everyone trying to all do the same thing, and sort of got there, and then the bad news started coming as it got closer and closer to 11:30, whatever it was. It started saying, well, we get about 10% in, then it went down to 50 people, which we might just have got in there, and then it went down to nobody. That was it. And then there was, you know, we was getting reports from people in the queue that there were so many seats left. Obviously VIP, there's quite a lot there as well, but they keep that open. And then no one got in, and everyone was just sort of sitting there, you know, disheartened, just thinking, you know, what the hell just happened? Even what we did, how long were we there? We got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to queue up all that time, to not even see one single person go in, to have the opportunity to go into that showcase thing. Yeah, that was just abysmal. So that part of the day was crap. For a lot of people, and I felt bad for all the super fans. I could see super fans trying to get in, you know, just so badly want to go in there. And I stood at the back when they started letting people go, and just seeing them try and talk to people and trying to get in, but they weren't having it. And you know, all these fans disappointed. I was like, this is not Star Wars. None of this happened at the previous celebration. It was nothing like this. So sort of walked off in this sort of somber atmosphere, and it was really strange, and that set the tone for the rest of the day. And I just thought, what the hell did I just do? You know, I've spent all this money on everything, and so far, you know, in day one, halfway through day one, and there's nothing. Like, it was just a complete waste of time. But luckily it was picked up. We went straight to the photo booth and was there to get a picture with Anthony Daniels, and that was awesome because as soon as we turned up, he popped out on the queue, And then he started talking to everyone, and he was saying, joking around, some didn't dress up, and then we literally got in the queue, and he said, well, you should have made an effort like these two.
Not a... Excellent. What's wrong with you? Living example. Okay, we'll try and have fun. It will be over in a flash, but you will remember this for the rest of your life. So when you meet the stable staff, so I'll see you in a minute. Okay, quick second.
And I was there. I think that's what you're seeing now on the video, and that was really cool. And then we got the picture with him, which is also cool. And that was the pick me up which I needed for the day. But even those moments, it sort of wasn't enough, because later on again in the day, and this was a recurring trend of the celebration, the congestion in Excel was just ridiculous. You'd walk in somewhere and everyone's just standing still because they can't get to anywhere where they need. Excel was a massive place, and even then it was not big enough for what they were trying to do in there. And I don't quite understand, because there were massive rooms in Excel. It's not as if they couldn't cater in other parts of it, but it was all sort of condensed in this area, and there just wasn't enough space for it. And the one big thing which I thought was just absolutely ridiculous for any Star Wars fan, me in particular, because I listen to Star Wars music 24/7. I don't listen to any other music. I promise you, it is John Williams all the way. All of my life has been like that. But when we walked in, and there's just previous celebration, they're blasting out the Star Wars music, and it really got you in the mood. Even when you was queuing in the morning, there was none of that. All there was most of the time at celebration was this bonking, crappy music. Nothing orchestral, nothing Star Warsy, nothing that made you feel excited, apart from in the celebration or in the panel stages or in the celebration live stage. But that was it. There was this sort of weird sort of tone. It needed that element, something to sink you in a little bit more, remind you of Star Wars. I actually did take my speaker, because I was going to put it in my rucksack and blast out Star Wars music for the fans, but I didn't do it in the end. But I really wish I did, and I thought maybe next time, if I cosplayed as something else with the music appropriate, like a cantina band person, and just blast the cantina or something like that, you know, at least it would have brought some atmosphere there. But it was all this modern day music, and me as a massive super Star Wars fan, I hate that. Like, I don't want to hear any of that. I'm there for sort of Star Wars music, and where better place to hear and listen to Star Wars music is at a Star Wars convention. That was just like one of the things that nagged me throughout the weekend, which I thought was very strange, and I would have changed that for sure. But the space of the shops, as you look at all the stalls and everything, it was apparent everything was completely overpriced. All the people were saying that. Everyone I spoke to, everything was so expensive. Everyone's sort of milking it as much as they can. And then when you look at some of the toys and things, which is something that I was really excited about. I've always looked, and every time Celebration is in America, I've always just been in awe of going around the showroom floor, seeing all the stores and everything, exclusives, and that was always very exciting. Something which I was looking forward to the most was seeing the 6 scale figures. So hopefully there was going to be a Hot Toys store, and hopefully there was going to be a Sideshow one there as well. There was someone that was doing something, but it wasn't official, and a lot of it was secondhand, and it was just so ridiculously overpriced, every single little thing. I just walked around and I thought, you know, me being a collector somewhat, and collecting sort of original Star Wars things, I've been on eBay and everything. I know what the prices of certain things should be, especially Sideshow figures and Hot Toys, and certainly autographs as well. And yeah, it was just, I was looking at it and I was thinking, that's just such a disappointment, because you sort of go there with the intention to buy a load of things, and when there was, one, hardly anything there, and two, it was so expensive, I just thought, who's actually buying this? Who actually wants this? I was hoping to get artwork, a couple of Sideshow and Hot Toys figures, some Lego. That was my intention when I went there, and all I came out with, because I managed to get in the Celebration store when there was no queue just before the end of the day, and I went in there and there was just nothing. It was some shirts, some stuff, but it was crap. It was really not great, and in the end I bought a candle with C-3PO on it for £30 and a magnet for £10, Return of the Jedi anniversary, and that was it. And that's all I came back with, which I purchased from there. And that was immense disappointment, shopping element of that, because I thought I was just, I made space to make sure that I could come back with stuff. So, that was not so great in my opinion. But moving on to one of the big things which I noticed, and something I was looking forward to so much, was the Return of the Jedi panel. Now I speculated who would be on there, and I was half right, but I didn't speculate sort of how they were going to go about doing it. So I think one of the things I loved about Star Wars Celebration all the previous years, Warwick Davis is absolutely amazing at hosting. I think he's hilarious. I think he's got great charisma. He's just an outright lovely person, in my opinion. And I really hoped that he was going to be doing some of the panels, yet he wasn't. And one of the things with Return of the Jedi one, I thought, well, with previous anniversaries, they've had so many surprises and amazing things, and the other celebrations, that George Lucas comes out, the Attack of the Clones, and then Hayden Christensen came out, and that was just beautiful. Like, what any Star Wars fan would want that experience, just to be in a room with their Star Wars heroes. Return of the Jedi panel was scraping the barrel, it really was. And the people they brought out, people who work at Lucasfilm, like Doug Chang and Neil, the creature effects person at Pinewood, they're great people. Like, I love them so much, but they didn't work in Return of the Jedi, so it was like they brought people to have, work at Lucasfilm to give us their thoughts, sort of thing. And Fennec Shan, the actress, she did the interviewing for that, and it was her first time interviewing. So it was more like watching someone have a conversation with someone who didn't really know what to talk about, and it was sort of dotting around. And the more and more we progressed, I thought, this seems to be a bit of a recurring trend so far. Like, all this sort of hype that I built up in my head of what Celebration is, and it's just not turning out to be something like I thought previous ones have been like. And then it sort of picked up, and Ian McDermott came out, and Warwick Davis, Anthony Daniels, and Lando Calrissian, Billy D. Williams, and that was really good. But then at the same time, it seemed muddled and sort of unprepared and last minute, like they were just sort of going along with it as they went. And you got a video from Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford, but I felt so bad for Billy D. Williams. I mean, he's quite old now, and sort of asking him questions, and he always used to say sort of yes or no answers, but seeing him sort of just, he's at an age now where, and he does it for the fans, which is, what I love about him. He doesn't want to disappoint fans, but at the same time, it was like she was plugging him for an answer, and he just couldn't really do it. He was just, I felt so terrible, and it was like, there was that. I don't know if there's something with Warwick Davis as well. He was an absolute hero, and I've never wished anything bad to happen to any of them, but he seemed, I don't know, it just seemed different, like he was almost sort of struggling, and that's what made me feel really sad and made me think, well, maybe that's why he's not hosting all the panels. And then it started making me think, like, shit, all my heroes seem to be getting older, and Star Wars doesn't seem as celebratory as I thought it was in like previous years, and when it was Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Peter Mayhew and George Lucas, they were all doing the panel together, and with Warwick Davis hosting.
Harrison Ford!
So that was quite sad. And then obviously you see the videos from Mark Hamill and things, and they're starting to look a bit older, and you just think, I can't help but be reminded of what we were robbed from their characters from the sequel trilogy. And then those sort of thoughts start going in your head, and you're like, gosh, they're just the perfect sequel thing where there's so much opportunity, just it never actually happened. And that panel just sort of made me feel sad and think, oh, well, they sort of seemed like Lucasfilm was scraping the barrel. Like, I don't know if it even is Lucasfilm, because something to me which was really apparent, that it didn't seem like a celebration of the previous, what made Star Wars Star Wars. So that's, episode 4, 5, 6, episode 1, 2 and 3. It felt more like just give them a little bit of time, but it's absolute focus on Disney Plus projects. And for me, Star Wars Celebration is a celebration of literally, the fundamental elements. I mean, I was surprised there was no Tamara Morrison there, who's always at Celebration. And young Boba Fett and Ray Park, I mean, Sam Witwer, etc., etc. List goes on. All the other Imperials who I remember were all lined up at the last Celebration I went to. They were all there. And this time it wasn't that. It was just so many people that I didn't know coming up in future series and things like that. And I'm always one for the movies and massive Star Wars movies, and I love the Disney Plus shows when they're good. And I think them straying even further away from the films, it was different, of course, until I found out about the films that were coming out. And this is something I find really strange. You pay all this money to go there, you try to get, do everything in your power to make it good for yourself, and then you don't find out any information because you missed the panel. However, if you're at home, watching it at home, then you find out pretty much immediately online. And it's like, I could have just been at home in my own comforts watching it and found out before anyone else who spent all that money at Celebration. It's a kind of a weird thing, and that was a lot of the things which I was getting. So some of the panels which I got was Ahsoka panel, which was really good, but it didn't make any sense why they dropped the Ahsoka trailer in the panel the day before in the Lucasfilm Showcase one, because that should have been for the Ahsoka panel. That was an indication that they really didn't have that much to show, so they showed the Ahsoka trailer on that panel, and then for when we all saw it in the Ahsoka panel, they added obviously the Thrawn reveal, which was incredible, and a couple more snippets in the trailer there as well, which obviously was very exciting, but it sort of would have kept it a bit more special, but it didn't feel like that. And it was kind of strange. Like, I found out that there was 3 Star Wars movies, I think, at the end of the second day. Didn't even know Daisy Ridley was going to be in it, and that was quite a surprise. And I don't quite understand the logic of it. It sounds interesting. I'm incredibly happy that Dave Filoni is getting a movie, because the fans are going to be, Filoni fans are all going to be behind him, which is going to be really nice. It would be interesting to see how those play out, but how many movies have been announced and directors put on board and then disappeared and changed within the last however many years? I mean, are any of these actually going to come into fruition? Who knows? I mean, after Indiana Jones comes out, imagine if that's not popular, then James Mangold, I mean, is he going to direct the movie, the prequel movie? I don't know. I don't really have much idea what The Acolyte is. Skeleton Crew as well, but apparently that was all of that was on the Lucasfilm Showcase thing. So once I heard out the information, I was kind of, I thought, well, I wish I knew that on Friday, because I would have had a lie in bed in the morning and then just turned up leisurely afterwards, which is subsequently what I did every single other day. I wasn't going to queue up in the queues. I was just going to wait till everyone started going in, and I had tickets for the Ahsoka one, so I walked in, which was pretty good, a contrast to the previous day. And then the other subsequent days, I had ones for Villains of the Sequel Trilogy for the streaming room, so I managed to get in there as well. On the last day, I just had a line and, and got up and just went in at 10 o'clock. There was none of the sort of original Star Wars-y stuff. It was just all sort of TV series things. And, you know, The Mandalorian, I've always said it was something which was, it created something new, opened up a new sort of avenue for Star Wars, and in its own right, it works perfectly for television. It's its own thing, it has its own style, and that works. But now it's like everyone's jumping on the bandwagon. Obi-Wan Kenobi has changed from a movie to a series. I still think that should have been a movie. Boba Fett should have been a movie. The movies, I'll believe it when I see one. And like I said, we've had so many announcements. Will any of them happen? I don't know. It's kind of a strange thing. But there's so much to talk about in that respect. But in terms of celebration, there was certainly a shift from 2016 to 2023. The sort of love, the passion, the care just seemed a bit lost, like they just cared about selling, making as much money as humanly possible. So where does that come into play, really? I mean, who's trying to do that? Well, the only difference is that Disney recently sort of acquired Lucasfilm, you know, back when Celebration happened in 2016. So it's all quite new, fresh, testing the waters, but now it felt like just this factory herding people in, as many as possible, and then taking as much money, not really revealing that much, and then sort of that was it. That was sort of the reoccurring trend, I would say. And Celebration stage, live stage, back in 2016, you could walk straight up. You know, it was such a cool thing. You know, I remember Ray Park just walking straight past me. That was really awesome. Things like that would happen. That would never happen now, not at all. And it's kind of like, you know, everyone's excited. But one of the things I noticed is like with everyone who works there, trying to make it seem, you know, this magical, amazing thing. And I will tell the truth of this, the production process of this, every single person who's working on the panel, sure, they've got to get people hyped and excited, things like that, etc., etc. But there's so much emphasis on making sure that it's this massive crowd warm up and build up and getting people screaming for no reason. And someone has to say a sentence. It could be nothing and everyone's screaming and applauding and cheering. That's what I found kind of funny. I haven't really seen anything like that. I was sort of looking around. I was like, what is everyone screaming for? Like nothing really happened. And it's because, you know, everyone's in the background. It's like, yeah, clap, clap to put on the show for when it goes live. And there was a lot of that about. I mean, I think where I get older, then maybe that's probably got something to do with it. I think as you get older, you know, responsibilities change. You have a different perspective on things. But my love for Star Wars certainly never changes. But maybe screaming and shouting is just not one of the things which is my style. I'll applaud, I feel emotional, but shouting for no apparent reason is, you know, with abundance of excitement. I'm thinking, is anyone actually that excited? Pure excitement for me was one of the things when the Phantom Menace was coming out. Same with The Force Awakens, when the credits, when the title comes out and hits you with that music, that is pure elation. That's excitement for a Star Wars movie. That's something which, being around the fans, is what I thought would be like at Celebration, but it wasn't that. If it felt natural and without someone standing there the whole time, or any DJs trying to make you applaud and practice applauding before the show starts and things like that. I know that happens in other TV shows and whatever, but yeah, it's not like a TV show. It's Star Wars. But amongst all these things throughout the days and not being able to move around or buy anything decent or go into any of the panels, it was brought back up. There were incredible, amazing moments which I will never ever forget. One of them was literally going to see Ewan McGregor. The photo ops, I've never done anything like that ever. It was the first time I did any of that. One of my biggest regrets in 2016 was not getting pictures with Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Peter Mayhew. I remember standing there looking at them signing autographs and thought, should I do it? And I just didn't do it in the end, because I stood there for about an hour just watching them, and I thought, they were my heroes, like literally right there. And I managed to get them on video as well. But this time, I wasn't going to miss that opportunity. I wanted that to rectify that little bit. So the second day was Ewan McGregor, and I literally turned up from a panel. My wife was already queuing up. I thought we were the first ones there, but turns out we were the last ones there. I only realised this the other day. I turned up, I'm dressed in full Obi-Wan Kenobi, she is Padme. We got an email that morning saying he's not touching, shaking hands, doing anything with anyone. You're going to stand the opposite side of him, and there'll be a prop in the middle, and you'll have to have a check, a temperature check as well. I was thinking, my God, they've done it again. Literally the day before, spent all this money on this opportunity and celebration, and now they're saying you can't even stand next to them. I think one of the things I found strange with previous celebrations is seeing the plexiglass or something like that, and they're just standing sort of near each other, and that's it. And seeing the system of how they shove people out in there and out there quickly, and being like, next, out you go. With a plexiglass in there would not be worth the money, in my humble opinion. But I thought, well, it's Ewan McGregor. He is my childhood hero. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi when I was 9 years old was, he was who I wanted to be. And I was thinking, I'm obviously still going to do this. So turned up, went in there, literally, because there was no one really there, everyone had done all their pictures. He was like, whoa, he's like, great costume. Walked over to shake my hand, and then he shook my wife's hand. I was like, oh my God, I was like, what is happening? And then, he went back to his spot and he put his hand on the droid, and I put my hand on the droid, took the picture. He's like, oh, that's great. And then shook hands again. I was like, man, that guy, I just thought, even though we was told there was not going to be any interactions, he made the effort, and he turned, all of the things which might have perceived as a little bit frustrating with celebration, it's those moments which I'll treasure, honestly. And it's just meeting your heroes and having an encounter like that, even though it was short and quick, and it was still perfectly amazing. And to get a picture at the end, dressed up as Obi-Wan Kenobi next to Ewan McGregor as well, was absolutely amazing. So that was like one of the big highlights. So I think after on the Friday, when it was starting to feel like I hadn't actually done anything, none of the panels or anything, I seemed to keep missing anything. I booked the Clone Wars one. I was unsure which day to book it because I wanted to see what the crowds are going to be like. So I heard they were huge just for Ashley Eckstein alone. But I saw them and I booked it up. That was amazing as well, seeing them all there. And then Matt Lanton pointing at my wife, and Padme was like, well, you should be here. They all pull a face. And then James Arnold Taylor says hello there and things, and I'm standing next to Ashley Eckstein, Dee Bradley there as well, like pulling a face. And in the picture, it's just like so amazing to see all the Clone Wars heroes, like people I loved so much and respect so much their work. I think they're so talented, and then to get that picture was just such another high moment of the day. So for what I've got so far in these 2 days, it's that the panels, everything that Lucasfilm had churned out, were trying to do, was just disappointing. Like, it was lackluster. It just didn't seem like... It's not like they had to release something new. It's just the general vibe that I was getting. Like, you couldn't get close to Celebration stage at live stage. Like, you couldn't get anywhere near it. You just sort of standing teaching on the edge. You can't really hear anything. And it's just, if you love crowds and shoving in between people and being really close, and you're going to be in your element there. But for me, I I don't do that sort of thing. I just, if I can get in there, I will. But that's one of the things which I was getting from there at the time. It was like you couldn't really do much because there was just so many people there. Like everyone was saying it, but then when you had those breaks and moments away to do the photo ops made it something completely different. It was a magical, wonderful experience, and something which sticks with you. And that's the key sort of parts of celebration. It's those moments, even though you had to pay for it and you make those key moments, so to speak. It's the fact that you did do that and it took place. And then one of the other just simply amazing experiences. We didn't get the same email as we did for Ewan, but obviously went in for a photo with Hayden Christensen as well. And I was thinking about doing them together, and I'm glad I actually didn't get that one, because I wanted the sort of separate experience. And plus with the late minute email from photo ops, which I thought was pretty silly really, surely they should have known that already. It was that means Hayden would have been on the other side as well. So having Hayden there, and I saw him when I was queuing up, and he was doing all these poses with people, and he was just as nice as Ewan. But one thing that I noticed with Hayden was that he's like making eye contact, and you could see that he's listening, and he's engaging with you, and he's taking time and effort, and you could see that appreciation. And he like shook his hand twice as well. And that was amazing. And then once I got that picture and it was printed out as well, I was like, what just happened? Like, these were like my childhood heroes, or my younger year heroes anyway, but grew up with them nonetheless. So to see Hayden, meet Hayden, shake his hand, get that picture was just pure elation for me. Like, once you get it and then you walk off and you have to just walk through these parts and to go and collect your thing, like you zigzag throughout some walls or something, and you just, that gleam, I will never forget that. And it was the same with Ewan as well. But to have Hayden have that picture was just, that was magical. And those are the magical moments which stick with me, right? That's like the same experience which I had, the feeling which I had for the first celebration. So those moments in this celebration are special. Like, that's what makes it really special. Of course, you pay an absolute fortune to have those moments. If it wasn't for those moments, then I don't know. But yeah, those were incredible, and those memories will be treasured, let's put it that way. To see your heroes, meet them, be close to them, actually talk to them, that was just out of this world, and that's something that I wouldn't forget in a hurry as well. I think I'll always remember those moments. That was something which I really came back with a smile on my face for that. But then once you have those opportunities throughout the whole day, you know, you've got people taking pictures of you because they love the costumes, and that's what I felt really humbled, and that's a completely new experience. And seeing people, you know, just asking, can I get a picture? Your costume looks great. And I was like, it's literally, those are the Star Wars fans which I love so much. And being amongst those people who care about other people's costumes and look at them, and seeing all the amazing people that are dressed in costumes, which I'm completely in awe of. I go by and I think, how the hell did you do that? You know, seeing the amount of effort that the fans have made was just inspiring, and just made you feel really good. So even whatever thing you might not have tried, you might not have gotten the panels, you might have been squished all day, you might not have got a good seat or anything like that, which is basically what I had the whole time. There was always the fans, the super fans who put a smile on your face and made you laugh. But then you start to think, it's really the fans which are making this celebration what it is. You know, it's like, what have Lucasfilm actually done to do, you know, for the fans? It just seemed like, I remember coming back with loads of stuff that Lucasfilm were giving out, and small bits and bags and stuff, and little memories and experiences. I know, like in America, you had the Mandalorian experience. They created that for you to see all the props and things like that. One of the things I will say of the hotel, though, which was just so awesome, no matter where you look, someone was dressed up. You were like, screw the Star Wars hotel. You don't need that. Go to a convention, go to the hotel nearest to the convention center. That's what's going to be filled with Star Wars characters. Not all these ones in the galactic cruiser or something like that. Here, like I walked out my room, there's Chewie, full-size Chewie, just standing there. I was like, come on, like, you might have get a picture. And he said there was like 3 other Wookiees in there as well. I was like, my goodness. And, you know, I turned up meeting neighbours, and they've, you know, make lightsabers and things like that. And, you know, that's the sort of thing which I loved, like going down to the bar dressed as Obi-Wan Kenobi and going for a drink. That was just awesome, and it's such a weird, natural thing just to be strolling around in your Jedi robes through the corridors and saying hello there to everyone. Walking around the showroom, again, you've only got to walk 2 seconds and someone's come up. And one of the things which I loved so much, I had no idea that swag was a thing. It was trading with other people who've made stuff. That was just an ultimate buzz and highlight. I loved the idea of it. When I heard of it on the Facebook group, I thought, well, I want to do something like that myself. So I made some coasters to give out just to people. Anyone who I saw who was a character that I made in the coaster, I just, hey, you know, your costume looks great. Would you like a coaster, sort of thing? And, you know, everyone's always so appreciative of that. And that's what something like that, that's what Star Wars fans do. People just coming up and give you things like that. That to me means a lot, because people are thoughtful. That's one of the takes which I took from this, because it just made me feel like, you know, you're around all these people who care so much about the franchise and love Star Wars and gone through the effort to make something, and I pick up and stuff like that. So that was another like really high point throughout the whole of the weekend. But then I'd say one of the massive highlights for me was literally meeting you and literally everyone who came up from my channels and wanted to chat and just said hello and things like that. I mean, even when I was at the hotel, there was a bunch of chaps there, if you're watching, hello there again, and we kept bumping into each other. They live up in Scotland, nicest guys, you know, and it was always just happy. You'd walk around and you're sort of contemplating, you know, what's happened thus far in terms of what you wanted to see at Star Wars Celebration, and then you bump into people who recognise you again, and then it's a massive pick-me-up, and those were the encounters which I thought I might see a couple of people, but the extent, you know, literally, when I wanted to go outside for some fresh air, and I was meeting my wife outside, and then there was a point where I only had to walk a couple of minutes to get outside, and literally I met someone, and then someone else recognised me, and then someone else, and then someone else. And then I had a queue of people wanting to meet me and get pictures, and then there was people wanting me to sign their costumes and things. I was like, what the bloody hell is this? Like, it's pretty crazy and surreal, and that really made the experience like just incredible. And I'll never forget any of that. And I was trying to give out as many coasters and things to people who came up and wanted to chat and things and take pictures. But even at the end of the day, where you stand outside, and I think on day 3 or day 2, my feet were just bleeding and I could not walk. And I could make it for about a couple of minutes walking. I had to stop and rest, and I was trying to make it back to the hotel. And then I stood outside. I couldn't make it any further, and then an Obi-Wan Kenobi comes along, and she was amazing. Her and another girl dressed up as Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, and we started chatting, and then another Obi-Wan came along, and then another Obi-Wan came along. We made a quick video together, all of us together, and you know, just fans nerding out, dressing up, and all the fans gathered outside in the atmosphere, and people still in costume and lightsaber fights and things. And I remember looking around, I was like, that's all I wanted really, because I don't really know Star Wars fans in real life, so to see like everyone there and meet everyone, be amongst them all, that was just such a major highlight. You hear about it, like people saying, oh, you'll make so many friends at Celebration. Well, it happened. Like, I exchanged numbers with quite a lot of people, and spoke to so many people and made so many friends and getting pictures with so many people. And just a general appreciation of Star Wars and celebration and all there together. That's what I love so much. One of the things which I loved so much, it was like a sacred code of some sort. You're walking around the convention center, and then if you see another Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's like you see each other, like you sense them coming up, and you get close to them, and then you know it, and you're like, who's going to say it first? And then it's like, hello there. You know, every single time that happened with an Obi-Wan Kenobi, you don't say anything else. You know, it was literally just hello there. It's a mutual appreciation, and just, you know what you're doing, hello there. And that's what I loved so much. So just hilarious sort of meme, real life experiences there, which is pretty great. But it's filled with stuff like that. It's kind of a strange thing where you get up in the morning, and it became a natural thing where get up, put your costume on first thing in the morning, get to celebration, do your thing. The end of the day, you sort of get back at 7 o'clock, and then you get de-dress and sort of relax and rest your feet a bit, put your feet up, room service in the bed, and have your dinner, and then sort of fall asleep and collapse. And that was kind of a nice experience, sort of dressing up as a Jedi every single day. I've never had anything like that before, ever. I wish that I do a Emperor Palpatine. I've got all the sort of movie accurate Emperor Palpatine costumes on, and I wish for one of the days I bought my Emperor with my mask on and everything, even though you sweat buckets, just to have it for like an hour would have been quite cool, and I wish I did that, because people really liked pictures with the Empire people, and that was really cool. One of the amazing cosplays, amongst many, I mean, some of the amazing pictures which I got that stood out for me, Commander Cody, who had a hologram of the Emperor who sent execute Order 66. When I walked up to him, he gave me his lightsaber, like episode 3 when he gives it to Obi-Wan. And I just remember saying, thank you, Cody. It's those moments.
I has come. Execute Order 66.
So it was a clone trooper, phase 1, and he had a rotating blaster gun, and he was rotating it, and freaking awesome. It was Night Sisters, which just looked completely like they came straight out of the series, which looked amazing. It was all these incredible, funny cosplays where he had a Luke Skywalker, and he had the snake thing around him, monster from the Death Star, taking pictures like that. They had, George Lucas is everywhere, which I loved. You would be in the panel, and then you would look in one of the screens, and then George Lucas would just walk past trying to get his seat, and everyone's laughing their heads off. It's those moments, those fan moments, which made it fun. It was always the fans which make this thing incredible and amazing. In 2016, it was all about Rogue One. The Force Awakens just came out. Star Wars was very much alive, and a lot of cool things happening. This time around, I didn't get so much of that, but I got 120% the fans' experience of being amongst all those people and laughing with people and sitting next to people and chatting to them and all talking about Star Wars and their experiences and what they've loved and who they've met, and seeing that elation was something which I really connected with. The other panels, like the streaming panels who made it fun, and the DJs there, like the Australian one and things, they were really cool. Like they played games and things, and they, just before the Obi-Wan Kenobi panel, they had all the Obi-Wans come up, and I was sitting there. My wife didn't get a ticket for that one, but I was sitting there. She would have made me go up, but I thought, well, just literally minutes before that, they had 4 characters up there, and they were dancing, and one was dancing stripping to Magic Mike, an Imperial, 7-foot Imperial, so I didn't go up. But then the sheer amount of Kenobis that went up, then they got them all to say hello there, and what a missed opportunity. And then Ewan McGregor came out as well, and I thought, no, why didn't I just do that? But those moments, seeing all the fans getting involved, I love that. One of the things I heard about, like the cosplay panel, like only 12 entries or something like that, which I found very strange, because I've seen those panels where Dave Filoni is doing the judging, and in previous years, and it's just incredible. And there's, you know, God knows how many people go up there. So there seems to be like a bit of a difference. I would certainly, after watching or going to this one, would like to experience one in America. No one saw Japan being announced for the next one, which makes me think, you know, I've never been there before, and maybe I should go there and try the next one, but it will make it difficult. Seeing the crowds, the crowd control, which was abysmal for this, I don't think you would have that over in Japan, but one of the things, like, I'll have children at that sort of age, which might make that a bit difficult, and this time around, there's not a chance I would have taken my child to this celebration with just how busy it was. It was not suitable for that. It was not friendly for that. It was just manic, and which was a shame, because I wanted so much Obi-Wan Kenobi, and had my dressed up daughter as well, and taken her around, and she would have had a great time. I had family with her, which was nice, but that was the one thing which, as a dad, I found the hardest, trying to justify being there and not away from my daughter for like 3-4 days. That was sort of the hardest thing. And even though you saw video, you know, throughout the day, just to be away from your child, I found that very, very difficult. And knowing that all I wanted was her to be there and just, you know, have a good time. And yeah, that was, when I got back, that was just, you know, one of the nicest things, just sort of seeing her. And I was still dressed up as Obi-Wan. I was driving home dressed as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And one of the things which I loved so much, it was like a sacred code of some sort. You're walking around the convention center, and then if you see another Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's like you see each other, like you sense them coming up, and you get close to them, and you know it, and you're like, who's going to say it first? And then it's like, hello there. You know, every single time that happened with an Obi-Wan Kenobi, you don't say anything else. You know, it was literally just hello there. It's a mutual appreciation, and just, you know what you're doing. Hello there. And that's what I loved so much. So just hilarious sort of meme, real life experiences there, which is pretty great. But it's filled with stuff like that. One thing which was pretty awesome, which I don't think that it was Lucasfilm that put it together. I think it was a fan group who came from Germany, and they made this massive Endor scene. So they had a speeder bike, they had the bunker to go in, people were taking pictures there, and then they had an AT-ST there as well, which is freaking amazing. And that looked really good, and that was harkening back to Return of the Jedi, obviously, which was really cool. There was also a Hoth bit there as well. And then the last day, there was a Wampa walking around, and I met them a couple of days previously in the lift, but I didn't know dressing up as a Wampa, so that was pretty amazing. Something which someone else recommended as well was having like a space, perhaps where it was playing the Star Wars movies on repeat or something like that. Something just to break away from the chaos, have a moment to yourself, sit there with Star Wars fans, relax, just to really compose yourself again and take a break from it, because I think that small amount of rest time would have paid dividends to the whole day. And it's those sort of tiny things which would have gone an awful long way. And I'm pretty sure previous celebration they had something like that. I did love seeing all the panels. One of the unorganized things is like you'd get to the Obi-Wan. I got to the Obi-Wan panel really early to queue up, and I was literally in the first row. Got let in finally, and then everyone sat down on this row, and then about 5 minutes later, or a few minutes later, someone comes up and says, no, this section's all reserved. No signs there. By that time, you had to get up and find new seats, at which point everyone else in the other lines who turned up later on have already got good seats, and the good seats are the VIP ones, and there's a massive section of them. So there's no opportunity to get a good seat at all. It was just absolutely impossible. And after the Friday experience of queuing, the only ones I really queued up for was the Obi-Wan. Every other time I just turned up literally just before it started. Apart from the Ahsoka one, I had more of a relaxed approach because I didn't want that experience to ruin my experience. It was more so just sort of noticing it and just not getting annoyed by it. Even the staff, when they keep saying shoving people up, so they're literally standing like this next to each other, there was one point where someone kept doing it, and you know, crowds together is not a good idea. People need to rest, be on their feet. You know, you can't do that in a hot place, and especially fully in costume, it's difficult. And someone keep doing that. At that point, I think on day 3, that was the point where I felt like I was going to snap. But then, you know, people kept asking for pictures again, and then I got talking to some girl, came up and was chatting away about stuff, and it was just turned around again. And I think the people behind them, French people, and asking for pictures to send back to their friends, and those are the experiences, you know, those are the nice people I just had throughout the whole of the experience. It was always, there'll be something there in the official element to annoy you, but then it's the fans that always make you feel good. And being amongst all the Star Wars fans is literally the best. So for future celebration reference, would I go back to another Star Wars celebration London? I certainly learned a lot from attending this one in terms of what to take. This was the first time doing the costuming, and the amount of suitcases and huge boxes that I had to wheel up, and the preparation for it was just mental, and the logistics to do it all, and plus, you know, do all your work and then to get it, get yourself ready for it and prepped, and be a dad and etc. Juggling all those things is complicated, but it's worthwhile when you have your high points. But when you take into consideration all that you've done, the sleepless nights, you know, and all of the things you need to do to get prepped and prepared for it, to then wait in massive queues and then not have a chance to really feel like you're a part of anything, you know, that certainly would be a reason not to go to another one. But, you know, I think that's just the poor organisational skills of this one in London. Like, I heard stories of it was bad in Orlando, everyone waiting outside fully in costume in boiling heat. You know, that's not right. Stuff like that needs to be, you know, that needs to be attended to and sorted, and learn from the mistakes and then implement them for the next celebration. The remedy for it. And yeah, the organisation, no one had anything nice to say about them. There were people who work, you know, volunteers who work hard, and you know, they certainly deserve a round of applause, etc. And all the people who work behind the scenes. But the organisation of it felt like it was lacking. The whole elements of effort that was put in, like, it felt like you paid top dollar for not that much in return. And Star Wars Celebration, therefore, in my overall arcing opinion, it's what you make of it at the end of the day. It's what you know, if you go there for just the panels, and if you didn't get the panels, which was quite a high percentage for me, you're going to feel disappointed. But then if you somehow manage to magically be lucky, balance it all out a little bit, give your time some time to rest and be a bit more organised, which I wasn't, in what you're going to be doing if you're fully in costume, for example, then you I'm sure would have a totally different experience. I had schedules written, I knew exactly what I was doing, but even then you can't abide by those schedules because it's different and it always changes. So yeah, there's disappointing moments. I think Lucasfilm could have done 10 times better, in my opinion. For me, the highlights were Clone Wars, Ahsoka. Looking back at Kenobi was good, but then there was no announcement of a season 2. You know, I think Ewan hinted it, and everyone was like, yeah! And then they said, well, that's all we got time for, and everyone's a bit like, oh. You know, and then it's like, for the Ahsoka one, we're going to show the trailer, and everyone's like, oh, and then but we've added more bits in there, and it's like, well, you know, there you go. But then when Thrawn came out, that was just huge excitement, and I love that so much. And then one of the panels which I really wanted to go to was the Disney Park panel, where I've been to Disneyland last year in Paris. They had the picture of Galaxy's Edge there and one of the expansions. It's gone quiet, they haven't said anything about it, and I thought, well, they must be saving it for a celebration. What better place to announce a Galaxy's Edge or Star Wars themed land than at Star Wars Celebration? And I didn't make that panel because I needed something to eat. When I sat down, I was sort of by myself at that point, and I was watching that panel, and then nothing. It was like just talking about what they've already done, like the expensive hotel, and trying to up all of that. And then the announcement they had, the big announcement, when it was like, like, are they going to announce it? They're doing a new story for Star Wars Star Tours. It's like, okay. Right, okay. And so the Mandalorian turns up there, he's turning up. And you think, do they not realise that there's God knows how many amazing Mandalorian cosplayers already at Celebration, you know, who probably interact way more than that would happen at the Disneyland park. And everyone's sort of cheering for that, which is, you know, is cool, but it's, yeah, it wasn't sort of, there was no sort of massive announcement in that department or any other departments. I thought there would have been a Kenobi Series 2, or perhaps, you know, a wild card would have been a Kenobi movie. I thought that Galaxy's Edge was going to be announced. Ahsoka stuff, everything that happened for Ahsoka, I think, happened for Ahsoka, and that's, you know, the Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni stuff, so that was amazing. The Lucasfilm panel showcase was nothing which I thought it would be, and so I wasn't, after finding out what it was, I wasn't disappointed that I didn't make it in there. The Return of the Jedi panel, 40 years, which deserved this amazing show, was just meh. You know, I felt sad for all of my favourite actors all there, and, you know, it felt like that they just really were trying to put something together in order to celebrate it, but it just wasn't really anything. But yeah, Star Wars Celebration, it had its absolute high points. I loved so many parts of it. It was a few days away experience which I've never had before. It had its sort of challenging moment. In conclusion, it's kind of whatever you make it, really. You know, you can make it amazing and great. Doug Chang panels were just amazing.
Wyoming became our foundation. We wanted the crisp mountain air, the green hills, and the blue lakes. For the buildings, we referenced Ralph Corey and John Berkey's paintings to capture that quality of white buildings with dark bands.
Meeting him as well, like literally walking down, and he's just walking, getting pictures with people. You know, you don't get that anywhere, and he's an absolute hero of mine. And I managed to get a picture of him. You know, there's so many cool, amazing moments like that, which will stay with you, and you'll never forget. But anyway, the whole experience was something completely different, and it was amazing. Even though, like I said, there were down points, but the whole thing, it was incredible.
This is an interesting trajectory, and I want to see where it goes.
Are you looking forward to watching Han Solo movie as a fan?
Not really.
And if you saw me, you probably saw me with a smile on my face, because that's just me walking around, smiling, just looking at people and smiling and just enjoying them and being around them all. That was literally, which is what I loved as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope there were some cool bits in there for you to see in my experience, and enjoyed hearing about it. This is probably something I haven't really done on this channel before. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Take care of yourself, and remember, the Force will be with you always.